Hello, my name is Roberto. My videos are going to be about learning to speak Spanish. I am a linguist. I've been a teacher all my life. I'm 70 years old now. I'm retired. And I want to start making videos on teaching people how to speak Spanish. So most of my videos are going to be about learning to speak and learning to listen so that you can speak Spanish. My videos at the beginning, I'm going to start making videos for children. There's a difference between teaching a second language to children than teaching a second language to adults. It requires a different way of teaching. So most of my videos at the beginning are going to be directed to teaching children how to speak Spanish. Now, Spanish is different than English. And if you speak English as your first language, English is going to give you problems in trying to pronounce Spanish correctly because English uses different sounds than Spanish. For example, the vowels in Spanish are pronounced one way, and the vowels in English are pronounced a different way. So a child has to be able to have time to listen to the Spanish way of saying the vowels in order to learn how to speak Spanish and be understood by other Spanish speakers. For example, the Spanish language has 5 vowels. English has more than 5 vowels. Yes, English has the A, E, I, O, U. It has 5 letter vowels, but it has more than 5 sounds. Each vowel, for example, the English vowel A, you can say A or A. There's 2 ways of saying the A. We call the sound A as in face. We call that a long vowel in English. And we call the A in the word fat, a, as a short vowel. So there's actually 2 different ways to say a vowel in English. Whereas in Spanish, the A only has 1 sound, which is a lot easier to learn and to memorize and to learn how to speak it. In Spanish, the letter A, which is the name of the letter A in Spanish, is A, and it's also the way you pronounce the letter A, A. So the letter A, which is pronounced A, in a word, it's A also. So you have only 5 vowels in Spanish, just like English, and you only have 5 sounds, 1 for each vowel, whereas English has more than 1 sound. It has 2 sounds for the letter A, sometimes even 3 sounds for the letter A. But Spanish is easier to learn because it only has 1 sound. Once you learn that sound, which is the A, and that's the way you pronounce it, you're done. So the 5 vowels in Spanish, for example, are the sounds that they make are A, E for the E for the letter I, and O for the letter O, and U for the letter U. In English, the letter U can be pronounced U. In Spanish, no. You pronounce it just U. So in Spanish, A, E, I, O, U. That's it. Once you learn those 5 vowels, then you're ready to learn the consonants. The consonants are very similar, very much alike the English consonants. So the consonants will not give you problems. But remember, The secret in learning a second language is that your first language, and this is very important, your first language will always interfere, will give you problems in learning to speak your second language, because the only sounds you know how to make if you only speak one language are your mother tongue, which is what the first language is called. It's called the mother tongue because the mother has a very significant role in teaching the child to speak their native language, their first language. But the second language will be a little bit more difficult, especially if the child is older than 13 years old, because the brain has already made the neural connections and it seals itself off. We're all born with the ability to learn a first language up to the age of 13. Then you start losing the natural touch, and somebody has to explain to you what you're doing when you're older than 13. But that's what I'm here for. I'm going to explain exactly how your first language interferes with learning to speak a second language. And then I will give you practices. We'll practice words, and I'll explain to you that how speaking is a lot different than reading. Nobody speaks one word at a time. Everybody puts between 7 to 15 words together in what we call an utterance. We do not speak. Nobody speaks in sentences. We speak in utterances. An utterance is between 7 and 15 words that we put together in a special way when we speak a conversational language, whether that be your first language or your second language or your third language. So people speak in utterances, which is why it's very difficult to learn a second language, because people are expecting for other people to speak one word at a time so that they can understand them, but nobody does that. The only time, or one of the few times that people do speak one word at a time, is when you're trying to communicate a special emotion such as anger or utter surprise. For example, in English, a mother will hardly ever say, "What are you doing?" One word at a time, speaking one word at a time. If the mother says to the 3-year-old child, "What are you doing?" it means a different thing. It has a different meaning than "what you doing" or "what are you doing." When people speak one word at a time, it usually is reserved for anger, to communicate anger or surprise. A mother says to the child, "What are you doing?" The child understands that the mother's trying to communicate that the child is in trouble. He's doing something wrong. But if the mother says to the child, "What you doing?" the child receives that communication as a very friendly conversation, just plain and simple. What are you doing? He's not doing anything wrong. So the child does not fear the mother. Or the mother might say, use the word water. What are you doing? Means the same thing. It means, what are you doing, in a friendly sort of way. All languages work that way. Like I said, I'm a linguist. I went to college. I went to the university to study how people acquire a language, how people learn to speak, how babies learn to speak, how older people learn to speak. What is the process that's going on in their head, in their ears, and in their mouth in order to speak a conversational English or a conversational Spanish or Swahili or any language in the world, Italian, French. All languages in the world are spoken in utterances between 7 and 15 words at a time before we have to stop and breathe. You have to pause and say the next utterance. So people speak and utterances. That's the first lesson you have to learn. We do not speak, nobody speaks in a language one word at a time. Yet people are trying to learn to speak one word at a time, and everybody thinks that they're angry or they're a little bit clocked in the head or something like that. So my videos, especially these videos in teaching people how to speak Spanish, I'm going to explain to you what's going on in the mouth, the ears, the head, the brain. By the head I mean the brain. How we are looking at speaking a second language and how you can learn easily with me explaining to you what's happening, why you can't understand somebody speaking in the second language. For example, people that from America that speak English, they study and study Spanish, and they still can't speak it. They can't understand when Spanish people speak to them. They think that the Spanish people are speaking too fast, but they're not. It's just that they're speaking in utterances. They're not speaking in sentences. English-speaking people from America want the Spanish-speaking people to slow down so that they can try to understand them. But even if they slow down, they will not be able to understand them because nobody speaks a language one word at a time. You only speak a language one word at a time to communicate a particular emotion, such as anger or surprise. When people are just speaking, they're speaking in utterances. So basically, when you're learning a second language, you have to learn to glue, to tie in, to link between 7 and 15 words at a time. And so you have to learn to listen to 7 or 15 words at a time so that you can learn how to repeat between 7 and 15 words at a time so that people will understand you, and also you will understand other people when they're speaking normally. So normally people speak between 7 and 15 words at a time. So your goal in all these lessons, learning to speak Spanish, is to learn to speak Spanish between 7 and 15 words at a time, which is a task all on its own. Not only that, but you're going to have to learn to speak or say the correct sounds. Like I said, the Spanish vowels, and of course the Spanish consonants. Now it's not easy just connecting words and saying them together, connecting 7 words together, because when you connect or link 7 words together in one utterance, there's a few sounds that change when you're linking one word to another. Just like in English, people will add a ch for what you doing. There's no ch in what you're doing. It's what are you doing. There's no ch sound, but there is a ch sound when you link those words together. You say what you doing. Now people will say, well, that's not the way you should speak. But that's the way people speak. There is no comments from the peanut gallery to say, well, I don't want to learn to speak that way. Well, if you don't learn to speak that way, the way people normally speak, then you will not be understood, and you will not understand when other people are speaking normally. So the task that I am going to try to help you with, the problems that I'm going to try to help you with, are that I'm going to show you not only what sounds are being made in the Spanish language, and I will give you drills and practice saying the correct sounds, but I am going to make sure that when you link those words that you learn utterances. And that's what these videos are all about, and I will put at the end of my video, and this is the first video that I've made so far for Spanish. I want to make some more videos, and I'm going to direct most of my videos to people that speak American English learning to speak Spanish. And I'm not going to teach you how to write, I'm not going to teach you how to read, I'm going to teach you how to speak and how to understand when other people are speaking Spanish. Thank you.